Excellent. So we are live on Facebook and YouTube. And we'll just give it a little bit before we get started.
Good morning, Parker. I think you get the attendance award.
Right?
You are a loyal viewer.
Yeah, I feel like on a weekly we should award like whoever has consistently shown up to these.
Good morning, Mr. Head. How are you doing? And I was very sad not to go to Mutts and Struts as well. I had a conflict that arose last minute, but heard it was a great event.
Awesome. We'll go ahead and get started if that's okay. Today's broadcast, of course, gives us an opportunity to hear from our mayor on updates in the city of Westminster, resources that are out there, and just news. Some of it might touch on COVID. Other things just might be as things are reopening. There are other priorities that are coming to mind, not only for our city, county, state, and federal level. I am your host, Juliette Abdel, President and CEO of the Westminster Chamber of Commerce, and I want to give you some quick widgets of knowledge for you that are coming on here for the very first time. These are videos found in the video section of our Facebook and YouTube channel, Westminster Chamber of Commerce. You can always watch when we're not live as a replay. Always comment if you have any questions or thoughts, even if it's long after that specific broadcast. If it's your very first time on here, make sure that you hit the like button and get the follow button beside that so you can get notifications when we go live and post content, so you can drop what you're doing, come on here, tune in, and then continue on with the rest of your day. Of course, if you're coming back to us, then thank you so much for being a part of all of our broadcasts. We have been hosting these for over a year and a half now, and because of you and your ability to not only engage with us on these, but hitting that share button allows us to reach a wider network and be able to share information to a number of people, not only in our network, but yours as well. So appreciate that share button. Appreciate you commenting and asking questions along the way. Of course, if you did not already know, we're on all things social media. So find us on Twitter and Instagram at Westy Chamber, on LinkedIn, Westminster Chamber of Commerce. And most of you already know our webpage. That's westminsterchamber.biz. So enough of that housekeeping. Now I want to turn to you all. Most of you have started hopping onto this broadcast. The best way for us to know who's on here is by commenting, by giving us some reactions to the video. We like the thumbs up. We love the hearts that you send our way, especially if you hear something. Drop a note so that we can know that you're still engaging along the way with us. I see Parker Brown and our past board chair, Brian Head, and I also see Councilor Seymour and our current board chair, Wayne Anderson. So I'm just going to start pulling up these comments so you guys can see these. Here's Parker, who's already tuned in with us, as Anita, our mayor, has already shared. Parker is one that has consistently been on here before, so we may have to do some sort of an attendance award moving forward. But good morning to you, Parker. Of course, we had our past board chairman giving a hard time to our mayor. Sometimes our councilors and our mayor get pulled in different directions. Saturday was another example of that, where unfortunately we haven't figured out how to be in two places at once. But thank you, Brian, for hopping on and giving a good morning welcome to our mayor and myself. Of course, our current board chair, Wayne Anderson. Appreciate you, Wayne, for hopping onto the broadcast from the YouTube side of things and tuning in and engaging on that platform. Now, Counselor Seymour, I can't emphasize this. Every time I see the good, I think of like the tiger, like the Kellogg's tiger, and then I'm like good, but I can't ever extend it all the way out. So I'm just going to say good morning back to you. Thank you for hopping on to this and for allowing me to even use your microphone. It was very much needed last Saturday, so appreciate you. Now,
I have to tell you, you said Tony the Tiger. I always hear Robin Williams in Good Morning Vietnam. He puts that on. That is the voice I'm picturing.
Funny. Yes, so very different. Yeah, much different perspectives for sure. But I love that. It just kind of triggers something in the back of our minds. With that, we've got a lot of information that our mayor has kind of pulled together that she wanted to highlight along the way. Mayor Seitz dedicates a good 30 minutes out of her day, even in the middle of her workday, to hop on here and share some of those updates our way. So I asked that if she is sharing information that you have questions on, that you type those in there. If she doesn't touch on something and it was pressing in the back of your mind, maybe you've seen it, you've heard it, go ahead and ask us away. We want to be able to be as transparent and as efficient with the types of messages that we share out to you. Now, Mayor Seitz, I think I have hogged enough of this time. I will turn it over to you to get us started.
Now, I just always appreciate these Monday morning opportunities to talk with you, Julia, and with your membership. So good morning. I see Tara also jumped on. I want to, before I go into a recap of things that happened last week, I do want to let you know I made an error last week. I mentioned to you that tonight's study session would be open to the public. That was the information I had as of last Monday. But staff did say they needed an additional time to just really ready the protocols for opening up our study sessions to the public. So the first one that will be open for people to watch, and reminding everyone watching, there isn't a public comment portion of our study sessions, but the first that'll be open to the public for observation will be that first week in August. So did want to clear that up. And if there's any comments on that, my apologies, but did want to let you know I spoke too soon last week. Now I want to kind of transition into an update from our last city council meeting. As I had let you know, there was a public hearing on a land use matter that was on our agenda. This was for the Applewood Point Senior Living Center at Walnut Grove. So this was the southwest corner of 108th and Wadsworth. They're senior units, but they are market rate. And so the price points were really from very high 400,000s to mid 550. So expensive, but a huge market. They had already a lot of pre-sales. So there's some need for senior living in Westminster. They are for sale, not for rent. They are R8, so that's the zoning designation, and it is in conformance with our comprehensive plan. What was interesting is they had an old PDP, or preliminary development plan, that was out of conformance with the comp plan. So this actually put it within conformance. Because this was already in the comp plan, the water resources and infrastructure planning had already been budgeted and accounted for. The applicant will increase connectivity to our trails and also make sidewalk and street improvements. There was a public land dedication. None of it was waived. Some was given as public land and some was given as cash in lieu. There was a unanimous vote by council to approve this development going forward. But because, or at least for the PDP, because this parcel of land is greater than 10.9 acres, it will come back to Westminster City Council for the official development plan. And that's where we see a lot more fine-grained details about circulation, sites, heights, setbacks, that sort of building materials, that sort of stuff. So we will see that again before this is the final approval. The next item was an amendment to CDM Smith for the final design of our water treatment plant for Water 2025, and that did pass 5-1. This allows us to complete the engineering design for what our water treatment plant will be, the technology, everything that will go into the building of that. This was already budgeted for and actually bonded for in 2019. And it's an important step. I believe that it'll help us be more competitive in both federal and state grants for infrastructure and allow us to look for those dollars that are beyond just ratepayers to help fund this needed infrastructure improvement. The next item that we had on the agenda was special legal counsel for employment and labor law matters, specifically for potential collective bargaining for our police department, and that passed unanimously. And then final special legal counsel and eminent domain for public projects such as our water treatment plant, and that also passed unanimously. We did have an,
Can I interrupt you just quickly?
Absolutely.
You shared some pretty great information, so I just want to quickly pause. Love that there was some unanimous vote that took place on council, especially as of late, as it relates to the public hearing for the development of this private senior living over at Walnut Grove. Now, you mentioned that this is for sale. It's not some of those rental locations that we have seen in the last couple of years kind of open up. Is this more of like a senior community where everyone's kind of a little bit independent, but we know that the entire area is kind of dedicated to those that may be 55 and above? Or is it more of still a secure space? It's just for sale secure. Do you know the details of that specific yet?
So it is deed restricted. You have to be over a certain age to live there. So it is a senior, but it is independent living. They're not going to provide, they're not going to go in and clean your room, for instance, but the common areas will be cleaned. Okay. So it is senior living for sale. Again, market rate and a huge demand, just a really profound market response. I believe Councilor Seymour, who's on the call, was joking that one of the pre-sales might be his. So
I tell you, I've seen these develop over the last few years, and every year they have added to the types of housing that they provide. And now it's, you walk in and sometimes they have, ice cream parlors, barber shops, and gyms. You're like, this is all inclusive. Are you sure I can't sign up for this? Like I have to wait until I'm 55 for that to happen.
They definitely have lots of amenities for it. It's active living, really, is the idea of it, is senior active living. So a lot of communal amenities throughout the design. And I did not mean to infer in any way that Councilor Seymour was in eminent need of senior housing. It was a joke he made for the distant future. So, just noticing his response.
I know. We won't share your age, Councilor.
But simply repeating your words.
Yes, exactly. All of that's always up for that. Now, I do have a quick question. This comes around the design of the Water 2025 plan, because this has been a project that's been going on for quite a while. We've had several different stakeholder groups that were involved, all the way to public open kind of community meetings that could come by and take a look and select the site of where this would go. That was kind of the initial phase, and there was a secondary phase that we've kind of been a part of. So it's nice that this is kind of moving through along the way. You mentioned there was an amendment. Curious on that 5-1. Was it in the terminology that there was a disagreement on? Do you know what that looks like?
Yeah, I mean, everyone gave kind of their reasoning for approving it, right? I mean, literally almost every member of council spoke about why they were supporting it. Mm-hmm. So even if they weren't comfortable with how the revenue is being obtained at this point, or the timeline of how we are financing it, there was a recognition by the majority of council that this is necessary, right? Like that Semper is aging out, that we need to do this. And so that this is one step forward to allowing us to do it regardless of the financing strategy, right? Separate from that, this puts us in a good position to understand what our needs are. I don't know if it was relevant to all of council that voted for it, but to me, one thing that was interesting is each year that we defer, there's $6.4 million compounding cost and just construction costs for the new treatment plant. But there's also an additional $4 million annual dollars of investment needed at Semper that we wouldn't have been planning on to keep it able to just provide the quality of water that we're getting right now. And so that's kind of a sunk cost. That's not building resilience. So on average, each year that we defer, it's about $10.4 million extra that this will ultimately cost us compounded. Does that make sense?
That does, yeah. It's huge.
So,
yeah.
And so, to be fair, Mayor Pro Tem DeMont was the vote that voted no, and he fundamentally has concerns as to whether or not this is warranted at this time, and to this scale. That and I don't want to misquote him, but that's my understanding.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. And I know Mayor Pro Tem DeMont does on occasion pop in on these. And so maybe he'll hear this part and might comment on or later post. But appreciate you kind of providing that perspective. There's a lot that's around this discussion. And so I just wanted to kind of pause and share that this was something, that had been discussed for a while. This isn't over the last couple of weeks that has been developed, as you shared. It was already budgeted, bonded back in 2019. We did give some humorous points over here. So Councilor Seymour shared they do have a bike repair shop in the garage. So for those that enjoy
not of the water treatment plant,
right,
back at the senior living.
Back at the senior living. And we got some laughs. So thank you guys for the engagement on this. And for those of you that are hopping up on here, feel free to start commenting our way. Mayor, I'll have you continue moving forward. Thank you for allowing me to interrupt you.
Oh, no, I appreciate it. And you just said something that I want to kind of piggyback on. You talked about how the Water 2025 has been a long process and really looking at whether or not we should invest in maintenance and expansion and improvements at Semper, or if we hit a point where that is less efficient, less wise with our dollars than actually building a treatment plant. And so that was a study that we did in 2015. So it's been some time that we've known that it is actually the most affordable option to build a new treatment facility, and to have that come online. Again, I think there's some disagreement within council about when exactly do we need to pull the trigger on that, but this at least sets us up when we are prepared to pull that trigger. And in my mind's eye and from my experience, the closer we are to shovel ready, the more competitive we are at these federal grants. And so I think with a lot of the opportunities on the horizon, this is going to set Westminster and our residents up for success in the future. Okay. So are there any questions on any of the other items that we discussed, either of the special legal counsel contracts or anything else?
I do not see any questions. I do want to give a quick shout out to Lucy and of course Tara for hopping on here with us.
And I have to acknowledge former Chair Brian Head's comments that I was not at the Mutts and Struts event this weekend, the Saturday that the Chamber hosted, but by all accounts, it was a huge success. And I was going to cede some of my time to you, Juliet, so you could give an update to membership on how that went.
Sure. And I'll be brief because I know you have some great information that we want to get out there. But we had our third annual Mutts and Struts event, which was a huge success, especially after COVID, to have this out in the community. Big shout out to our host sponsors, which are Highland Hills Parks and Recreation. They make sure that we look good with those parks and the pavilion and setup. Great youth from the School of Rock in Broomfield. We always like to include them in the conversation. And we had 4 rescues walk off with owners, which is exciting. During COVID, it's been very hard for a lot of those rescues to be able to offload some of those pets. So to be able to find them homes was great. But we had upward of 350 that were able to come out to the event, which was a lot more than 2 years ago. And in our opinion, especially after everything opened up, was great. Councilor Bowles was kind enough to be able to make it out to the event, helped us award out some of those attendees. We had various contests and food trucks. And then this little fur baby got to run out some of his own energy for 4 hours, which for those of you that get a chance to meet Cupid, he is a bundle of 3.5 pounds, and he looks cute, but he looks a lot nicer than he truly is. So thank you for allowing me to share about that. Great event, great program, and thank you to all of our partners for it.
And I have to say, Westminster is a community that loves our dogs. So it's a great way to connect the community with the chamber. And you said 4 little furry
Yes.
folks met their forever homes. Is that
Yes,
right?
that is
That's
right. And we had 2 rescues out there, and we probably had about 9 in total that were there, between 9 and 10 dogs that were there that were available. So, in the past, we've had about 13 walk off site and find homes. So this one was a little bit lower than previously, but compared to the last few months of the delay in new fur owners, this was definitely a success.
I think that's wonderful. I did want to highlight another community event that occurred on Friday. On Friday evening, the Westminster Legacy Foundation's beer, wine, and spirit tasting returned, which I know this is an event that's a lot of people's favorite event of the year. It was definitely smaller scale and it was outdoors. It was at the plaza at the downtown, which was a great vantage point to see how successful the development down there is going right now, and really built enthusiasm for the future of that site. But it was a fun way to cheers 20 years of supporting the Westminster community that the Westminster Legacy Foundation has invested in us. And so they partnered with Crafted, which is a liquor store in the Bradburn neighborhood. They had over 30 beers, wines, and spirits. Then there was delicious food from local restaurants and good live music. So it was really a great event. And if you're kicking yourself for missing out, because it's such an affordable event for what you get when you're there and for the nonprofit that you're supporting, there's another bite at the apple. They're going to have another one August 21st, same location, same partnership with Crafted. So I encourage all of you to go. It was really great. Just a little reminder of some of the things the Westminster Legacy Foundation has assisted the City of Westminster with when there's a funding gap, has been our Armed Forces Tribute Garden, helping with our statues there, which are just so impressive. It's a moving and unique garden in the Front Range and really in the United States. There's not a lot of places like this, so we appreciate their assistance. The Jessica Ridgway Memorial Park, obviously, such a tangible way to help our community heal and to honor that young woman taken from us way too soon. The nature playground that is just about to be opened up near our train station in historic Westminster. And the focus of the event on Saturday was a partnership with the Academy, Metzger Farms, and with Westminster Legacy Fund kind of helping assist in bridging the gap in funding. And so this is going to bring students to Metzger Farms for a community garden. The students will plant it. They'll learn about agriculture, learn about, all that it goes into running a farm. The food then will be given, some of it to local food banks, but they have a partnered entrepreneurship program. So how do they monetize? How do they learn how to run a business, take what they've grown and turn it into something of value that they can sell? And so I thought that would be particularly exciting for this group to hear about. It's a very hands-on, tangible, beyond balancing your checkbook. How do you start and run a business? So really neat partnership there. They had a $3,500 funding gap, and they were able to raise it through the paddle raise during the event. So really nice event and all. Any questions about things that went on last week?
I don't see any questions. Hopefully some of our viewers have attended one, if not all of those events at some point, or are now familiar with them, so we can support some of our community partners. These are some great activities going on, and we want to make sure that they continue doing what they're doing best.
All right, well then I'm gonna transition into tonight. Obviously, tonight is a study session for Westminster City Council. It'll be the first time since COVID that we as a body are together during a study session. So I am very appreciative of that. I think we do better when we're working side by side with each other. So I think tonight will be a good night. On the agenda, we're going to have facilitation of the 2021 contract employee appraisal process with a third-party vendor that we've contracted with for personnel services. And I just wanted to highlight this real quick. For the 2021 employment contract with our city manager, our city attorney, and our presiding municipal judge, we have to provide their performance review by charter no later than October 31st of 2021. At the last review, council recognized that we need to do a better job as council, being really clear to all of our direct reports that our criteria for evaluating them matches our strategic plan, matches our vision, that we're making sure that we had a framework that we hadn't changed in decades. So really making sure it reflects what the existing goals of the council are, and have it be relevant, right, to provide that critical feedback so people can make sure they're doing a good job. It's just part of being a responsible employer. And so with that being said, we had this contract. One of the things we also did is potentially quarterly reviews with our direct reports to make sure that they're not waiting to hear from us once a year. Some members of council meet with our employees weekly. Some choose not to, which is fine. But I think this allows a formal setting for input and feedback. So we will have a little bit more input about what is this process going to look like in the future with this consultant. So looking forward to that conversation. Are there any questions on that?
See, no questions on that. Which seems, I mean, everything that you're sharing is pretty much aligned with our, as a business community, how we generally support employees and provide that process for reviewing and making sure that they are meeting some of those goals and criteria and some of the ways that we want to move forward.
Yeah, in my experience, both being an employer, a director, and an employee, frequent communication is the key. Expectation management is the key, and constant like that really robust feedback loop is the key to success. So I think this is something that we're going to do great. Okay, the next issue is presentation of results of the ballot measures feasibility survey. So Westminster City Council at our retreat on May 23rd, this was our budget retreat, directed our staff to engage in a survey of feasibility on a few potential ballot measures. So staff contracted with Newbridge Strategy to conduct the survey. They're going to have a member of that team, the Newbridge Strategy team, available tonight to present the findings with us. Staff's going to be in attendance to receive feedback from council. I'm not sure if tonight we'll be giving direction if we want to go forward with ballot initiatives. We did not receive the data in a staff report, so it will be new to council. We'll be hearing it at the same time you are if you attend the event. So it might take us a little while to chew on it before we make any definitive decisions. And then there is going to be a study session roundtable. This is the meeting where council members can kind of pop in their questions. So this doesn't have to be a question that the majority of council had. This is someone popped it into, the email chain with us and said, I'd like to have this addressed at the next opportunity. So we are going to talk about a Medigap health plan for our public safety employees after retirement. We're going to discuss ways to attract and retain police officers specifically in the current climate. We're going to look at staffing levels in public safety and discuss ways to curb crime by prioritizing money in the police department. There was a desire to understand the sign code and how to reduce barriers from political signs or for political signs, particularly for candidates running for city council. And as a reminder, that was an individual counselor put that question in. There will be charter update discussions for areas of our charter that are maybe out of alignment with state or federal law. We just ran into that with this tomorrow's special election for the recall. We realized our charter's timeline and the federal requirement for how do we need to get overseas armed service members, their ballots were in conflict. So looking for those areas, perhaps for a charter cleanup, and what would be the process for doing that and what would be the timeline. And then finally, we're going to have a conversation with our city attorney about post-emergency declaration. Do we want to continue to have remote meeting participation as an option? And so I'd love to hear from your members what you think about that. And specifically, maybe we allow it for most meetings, but in a public hearing, should council be required to be there so we see directly people's faces, that we're there accountable when people are giving testimony, or do we want to allow some flexibility? So there's a public policy discussion there that I think is really warranted, and I think it would be great to hear from people what you think is best for representation and democracy. So I'd love to hear from you guys. And then finally, I just want to remind everyone that your last chance to vote in the special election regarding the recall is tomorrow by 7:00 p.m. It is too late to mail in your ballot at this point. There are multiple drop-box locations, and there's 4 polling centers. So please feel free to go to the city clerk's website to find where those drop-box locations are. There's one at Village. There's one at City Hall. We have some across our town, but do vote. A lot of people have fought really hard for you to have that right. So please take that responsibility and write seriously. If you cannot find your ballot, or maybe you filled out your spouse's ballot and you recognized you did that, you can go to a polling location and they will get you a new ballot. Let's see, and then this is very important. Today is the absolute last day for input on our transportation plan. So please, if you're on the fence wondering about whether or not you should take the moment to put in some input, please go. We've included the link for you to go and have your thoughts. We want this to be a community-owned transportation and mobility plan. And I think we've run out of time, Juliet, so I won't even talk about our accomplishments and awards.
I know we have. So we'll have to carry it over to next week. Thank you so much for all this great information. Parker has already started commenting, and hopefully the rest of you can follow suit. Let us know how you feel about remote options, if this is something that you want the city to continue providing to you for greater engagement, or what that looks like. He's already commented. You guys can also comment into the comment section. For those of you that are interested or curious about where to drop off your ballots, where those polling sites are and everything, we've included the link where we had posted some of that information on our website directly. That is available to you. You do have until tomorrow to go ahead and vote until 7 p.m. So if you forgot, you still haven't, you were delaying, you procrastinated, or you're like me and never received one, go get it done before tomorrow, so that way your vote can count. And of course, the City of Westminster's Transportation Mobility Plan, which we've discussed over the last couple of weeks, is still open until today. So we will re-include the link for you into the comment section of this broadcast so you can tune in. But thank you so much to all of you that have popped on. I see here even newer folks that I haven't seen before, like Enriquette. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. And of course, Mayor Sides, thank you for hopping on here, especially in the middle of your morning. And I look forward to being on here again with you next Monday with some awesome updates that we can get out there to our audience.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity